Alright, hello, we're just gonna do this. Welcome to L-Vlog. I didn't count. What are we? 17? 18? L-Vlog 17 was the last one. That was in July. Damn. Welcome to L-Vlog number 18. It's not even that high of a number, considering that I've been doing that for a while now. And it's October. What? Time just flies, and I wanted to make more of these. Like, I want to somehow document the progress that I make in my life, and this is one way how I do that. And I used to do a lot more, and it's so fun to be able to go back and see how different I was. I don't want to say stupid, but like, yeah, very different. And today's topic is gonna be change, because stuff changes, a lot of things change. Like, life comes in seasons. And I'm not talking about the actual seasons, even though they also change. It's October and I'm here in a t-shirt and shorts. Shorts in a t-shirt. October. Tell that to my grandparents and they're like, this is not what we're used to. It's also not what I'm used to. I kinda like it, must admit. I like this warm weather, but it's not normal. Or let's say it's not as it used to be. And there are people who really like to have things as they're used to be. They're really strict, I would say conservative. Things should stay as they always were, which is totally not my attitude. I love change. Just think about it. 200 years ago, this land was still part of a kingdom. The Austrian-Hungarian Empire, or whatever. Not like I know history. Don't quote me on that. Don't want to look back, I want to look forward, or look at the present at least. Yeah, so seasons change. This is because of global warming. I'm not a particular fan of that, and change is inevitable. It is as it is. I really try to stop fighting this. We're gonna find solutions eventually. I want to stay positive. I don't want to be the only person making change happen, right? This is unrealistic. And we see it everywhere. Like, the amount of flooding that is happening, like, for the first time ever, I thought here in Austria we're quite safe, but no. My parents' home was basically flooded 2 months ago or so. Yeah, that also happened since the last L-Vlog. And that's super unusual. It's like, we don't know this, really. I always thought we were safe, but no, we're not. We're definitely not. Climate change is gonna F us all until we come to the point where we find proper solutions, which I think we will. Technology will advance and at some point we will manage to somehow blast out more energy into space with like heat. We just need to radiate more heat and then we're probably fine. But again, this is not the topic of today's video. I don't want to talk about climate change. I do want to basically just talk about myself, which is what I do best. Because the longer I live, the more I can put my life into like seasons. And that happens on all sorts of scales and time frames. You know, when I was in school, when I was at university, now. And also on a more personal level, how I am or who I am changes. That's so funny to observe. And I don't know if everybody observes that. Maybe some people are just not self-reflected enough. But for me, I am a very different person to who I was 10 years ago. I'm a very different person to who I was even 2 years ago. I'm still a different person to who I was like 6 months ago, although I have a lot of things in common with that one. And also have a lot of things in common with the one from 10 years ago. I think my values never really changed. I always had a strong sense for autonomy, freedom, and lately also health. Freedom and health, still true, still two of my most important things. But my definition of them changes a little bit. What does freedom really mean? And health, oh man! My parents get in that age now where their main talking point is on health stuff. You know, what they do medically to fix their issues with their whatever. So yeah, I'm not there, and that's so funny because that's what old people talk about, right? So the season for my parents also changes. It used to be work, and now that they're retired, it's health. Funny to observe, but like, yeah, it's just something I noticed. And I'm in the happy position of not having any serious health issues. I do a lot of physiotherapy to work on my shoulders, my knees, and even my lower back lately started to hurt again, which I also know from back in the days when I played Ultimate, which is a great transition to, that's the kind of seasons that I wanted to talk about, because my main hobbies changed a lot. And when I was in university, a lot of my time I spent with ultimate frisbee, a sport that I still love, but don't really practice anymore. Like, I've been maybe once this year in ultimate training. And I don't really know what the reason for that is. Changing priorities, changing whatever. But yeah, I used to go to ultimate tournaments every few weeks. And that's what I spent my weekends with. And now it completely changed. Like, I spent almost no time playing ultimate, unless we play ultimate in that one Uzi class that I do, which is a university sport. Yes, I do university sports again, because I can. As a graduate, I just have to pay more, but that's fine, because I have money now. Also, that changed. Like, my attitude towards money changed a lot, but I don't want to make another episode on money. All I want to say is I did not buy a single NFT since I made the last video, so yeah. Proud of myself. Yeah, so what do I do now instead of playing ultimate? Well, right now is the season of dance. I do a lot of dancing. When I was in Berlin, one more time, first for the Berlin Hacker House, which I might make a separate video about. I filmed a lot, but I didn't edit, and that's because I have so much to edit for like my real job. I'm basically a full-time video producer with my Solana channel, so I don't really have much capacity to edit more stuff. But anyway, Hacker House was nice. Different topic though. And then I stayed in Berlin because then was the Radical Honesty gathering. We can talk about that later. But in between, I had like 9 days in Berlin where I went dancing every single night. Mainly to Lindy Hop socials. I went to one Balboa, which completely knocked me out, but that was still a great night because I met the girl again and then we booked a hotel to have sex, but that's also a different story. Also 2 nights. One night I went to my first ever blues social, which was also great. Blues dancing is like very improvisational and I had no issues like leading and following there. And one was a fusion event, I think, but the rest was Lindy Hop. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. Dancing every night, it's basically always the same people, you get to know the people, and that's also how I made connections in Berlin. That's how I made friends and play partners. My last 2 I basically got from dancing. The previous ones always, I always had people from Radical Honesty. So the previous season was Radical Honesty, where basically I went to meetups every week here in Vienna. And yeah, last year I went to a lot of Radical Honesty stuff and I really enjoyed it. I really got deep into that. And there was basically a community forming here in Vienna, and most of my Vienna friends I know from that community. And now it starts to shift. Now I have a few friends from dancing, and the Radical Honesty gets fewer and fewer, and I have more and more friends from dancing. And I distance myself a little bit from Radical Honesty. For one, because there's not that much happening in Vienna anymore. Another reason, there has been quite a lot of drama there, and I just wanna not really care about that, because like it never really affected me. And I do see that some of the practices are really not ideal. Do I want to go there yet? First, I did want to finish with the dancing. So in terms of dancing, I guess I could also do that here in Vienna, to go to one social every evening. It's not as much as in Berlin. In Berlin there is more, Berlin is also bigger, but in Vienna with all the dances, I mean, I could definitely go to social, but then I need to have more dances. So I still do mainly Lindy Hop for socials, but I can't really be bothered to do dance classes. I mean, yes, here and there, but for now I'm not doing any proper classes. Because when I go to a social, I feel confident enough to dance with basically anyone, even as a follow. So I decided I want to learn something else. I still do the fusion dance classes with Chris. I have another one later today. Although, is it really fusion? I don't know. It's more of the Latin American dances like salsa, bachata, kizomba, zouk. And zouk is actually one that I really started to enjoy lately. I randomly went to a dance class sometime when it happened at the Schwedenbrücke, and I really enjoyed that, because even in the first class we learned a really nice figure, and it's a super close dance and like really, I would say, sensual, like it's really on connection, and that's what I'm looking for in a dance, really. I want the connection with my partner. That's why I go dance. I don't go dance to do good choreography or look good or whatever. No, I want to be in connection with another person. And zouk really gives me that. And it also looks amazing if I look at other people dance and I'm like, whoa, ho, ho, wow. I mean, I partly get that with salsa or something as well, if they're really nice turns and stuff. But salsa gives me a completely different impression. Salsa, I feel like the people are more like, I don't know, sexist is too strong of a word, but there's a really strong, like, I'm the lead, you're the follow, kind of this power dynamic that I don't enjoy. The men dancing salsa, I don't feel comfortable with some of them. So I'm like, not the right thing for me, even though I really like to turn, and like as a follower I would really like to learn salsa. And I can't be bothered because I don't like that scene. Also, they're more like, also again, conservative, things need to stay as they are kind of people, in my interpretation, where not a lot of men follow and not a lot of women lead. It's also uncommon to see men dance with men, whereas in Lindy Hop that's relatively normal. Yes, there are a few people, men in particular, who refuse to dance with me because I'm also a man and they just want to dance with women, which is fine. Those are usually the older semesters, by which I want to say older people, older men, more conservative, and that's perfectly fine. But different communities have different openness for that. And I feel like Zouk is pretty open, and so I feel comfortable there. And I want to learn both, and I want to start learning as a lead. I'm gonna do both, but I'll do the dance classes as a lead. So yeah, I do Zouk dance classes now every Sunday evening, which interferes with my one Lindy Hop social that I always like to go to, but you know, whatever. Beginner and the improver class at the same time, because just the beginner I would just get frustrated because it's too slow for me, because I do have dance experience. I know how to move my body, I just don't know the details of this particular dance. So yeah, learning to dance Zouk is what I'm mainly doing now in terms of free time stuff. Which also not true, that's just one part. I also go to other socials and still dance Lindy Hop and whatever. Oh, blues, by the way. I went to 2 blues dance classes and they were like okay. I was like, yeah, I could do them. The problem is they're on the same day, Tuesdays, as my fusion dance classes, so I prefer to go to the fusion one. And blues, I mean, I went to the social afterwards here in Vienna. Also had my first ever blues class in Berlin and went to the social there, which was very different actually. There were a lot more like fusion dancers and I don't know, people that I didn't know from the Lindy Hop community. But here, the overlap with the Lindy Hop community is like huge. Like I knew most of the people from the blues dance event from the Lindy Hop socials that I went to. So there's more of an overlap there. And then when I was leading stuff in blues, it felt more like they can follow Lindy Hop more than they follow like what I know from fusion, which was very different in Berlin. So I was like, nah, since there is such a big overlap, I get to connect with those people through Lindy Hop anyway, so I don't need to also focus on learning blues. Which I still want to do, and you can't do everything at the same time because resources and time is limited. Mainly time, also money though, but at that point I'm just spending all my money. My mom was wondering how I can spend 6,000 euros every month, and I'm like, yeah, somehow it works. It's not that difficult. I don't know how I do it either, and I happen to do it. Do I really earn that much? No. I mean, yes, but before taxes. When I have to pay taxes next, it's gonna be interesting where I get that money from. But that's a problem of future, Andy. No, actually, I have some money on this. We'll see how much. I'm afraid of how much taxes I'll have to pay for this year. There's gonna be a lot. But anyway, I'll still future. Let's not bother with that right now. So yeah, that's my current season, dancing. Previous season was a lot of Radical Honesty, and I still really enjoy what I learned in Radical Honesty. I think the season before that was a lot on live looping. Like I really did this deep dives into the RC505 and learned a lot about live looping and practiced that and did shows. I barely do anything with that. I barely ever loop. I mean, it started with my neighbors complaining, and now I have new neighbors where one of them plays the saxophone, and then I'm like, if they play the saxophone, I might as well sing, right? But for some reason, I'm not that strong into that anymore. Yes, it taught me a lot. I learned a lot of like singing. I improved a lot in my singing and even in my performance, like playing those shows. A season before that was improv. I did a lot of improv back in the days before the pandemic. And now I barely do any. I mean, once or twice I go to the ISCV, but mainly as a host and not as a participant. Oh, and on Thursday I actually play a show. No, on Friday I actually play a show, a Maestro here in Vienna, which is an improv show where I just participate. I don't have like much practice anymore, but once you know it, like I don't think I unlearn it. Like I don't forget it. I don't just forget how to do improv. Yes, I might be a bit out of practice, but it's fine for a show in front of an audience, right? So yeah, improv. And all of those things make up who I am. Through improv, I learned a lot of the it's okay to fail attitude. And I can be whoever I want attitude. And being okay with whatever comes, I managed to deal with it. I don't need to plan, I can improvise. That taught me a lot about my life. Same did Radical Honesty. Taught me a lot about my life and how I interact with people. And it's not the tool for everything. As I already discussed like 2 L vlogs ago or so, when I was standing on that cliff, oh no, that's 3 L vlogs ago, I really noticed that especially the resenting people is not a strategy that I want to go with. I want to be more compassionate. And it's interesting how I actually managed to internalize this. Because back when I was in the Radical Honesty season, I was a lot, yes, me first, I look out for myself and I express what I want and others can give it to me or not, and then I deal with my reaction on that. It was very I focused. Mine. But somehow I managed in the past, I think 2 or 3 months, I managed to shift my entire way of thinking to being more compassionate to other people. I don't know how I did that or why I did that. Maybe my roommate Sandra had an influence on that. I noticed that it changed. I noticed that I changed and I like it better now. It's much more, yeah, I don't know, trying to radiate love, which sounds very esoteric, so I'm not gonna say that. But yeah, with an attitude that I want the best for other people, than with the attitude of I want the best for myself. I still want the best for myself. And at the same time, I have this belief that I can make the world better by making the people around me feel better. And that's not a I forget about myself. Definitely not. I still have myself basically at the top of my priority list. But it's not a me versus the others. It's me with the others. So like when I think of my neighbors, for instance, when they come over and say, hey, you're being too loud, which they haven't in a while because I was being not so loud anymore. I try not to immediately think, fuck, they are trying to limit my freedom to do whatever I want right now. But I try to see, okay, they have needs, might have a need for comfort or whatever it might be. And they're telling me, and then I can check in and be like, okay, can I afford to help them have a nicer life right now? And can I be more compassionate towards them and find a compromise which might result in me not getting to make the music that I want to make right now. And then depending on my state, I might be like, no, I really need this right now. I really need this for my own well-being that I am loud right now, which rarely is the case. Or I can be like, okay, then I find another solution. Maybe I go outside to loop there, or I just listen to music with headphones or something. So I really always try to be compassionate. Also when people yell at me at the street, at first I'm like, no, screw yourself, right? That's my first initial reaction. If somebody comes like that against me, I immediately go like, no, you, right? But then I'm like, I don't know what's going on for them. I have no idea about their life. I have no idea what they are currently struggling with. And they might have a really bad day or a really bad life. I don't know. I don't know them. So I'm trying to be nice with them and be like, yeah, okay, you're not well right now. I'm sorry for you. And I don't need to internalize that as a critic on me as a person. If I am in peace or whatever that means, if I'm in a good state, then I can deal with that. And here we come to the big picture that I somehow made up in my mind. This idea that if everybody was compassionate with everyone, or like, let's go the other way around. Because we are not compassionate with each other and we yell at each other because our own life sucks. I have to work all day because my boss makes me to, and I need to do that because I have a family and I need that money, and so I need to work and I feel shit about that and I can't do anything about it. So I'm in this constant bad mood, and then whenever something even slightly bad happens, I immediately yell at other people and be like, this, and rules, and da, without any compassion or love. And that then makes the other person who receives that also be in a bad mood. This asshole just yelled at me for no reason. Everybody's mean, I'm gonna be mean as well. And this spreads, and this is basically the attitude that I think Vienna has. In Vienna, pretty much everyone is anonymous and they just push their shit on other people. They're like, throw their shit around. And I don't like that. I'm like, okay, I got some shit. Fine. I don't envy you for your life. You seem to struggle with something. I currently don't struggle with many things. I can take it. And if I would receive too much, then at some point I will also not be able to take it anymore. If people constantly scream at me and be mean to me, then I will also be like, why am I the only one showing compassion here? And then I'll also go in this mood and fight back. So yeah, in an ideal world, we would all, first of all, get our own shit together, like build our own life in a way where we can then be in a good mood and take it. And then we can radiate it outwards to other people and be nice with others. But the problem here is a bigger one. It's systemic, because most people in our society do not manage the thing that I manage, and that I am very proud of myself, that I am in a place where I can say yes, I am happy. I mean, I'm still missing. I listened to a podcast recently where they say happiness comes from, it's not pleasure, it was another word for where you do something nice with people, purpose and meaning. Or maybe purpose and meaning was the same thing. Anyway, did I find the meaning of my life yet? No, I'm still missing that. So I'm not fully happy, lol. At least I'm not in a point where I have to constantly struggle. Yes, I would like stuff to go different. And at the same time, if I would never get the thing that I want, it would be okay as well. Because we humans really get used to change. That's the thing, we're talking about change here. We get so used to it as well. If something changes, that will become your new normal. Whether it changes to the bad or to the good. Let's say you're suddenly financially independent and you have enough money. In the first time you'll be euphoric and be like, yeah, I can finally afford all of those dance classes and things that I want to do. And then eventually that will become your new normal. Like it did for me. It's normal for me to now be able to afford all the things that I want to afford. And if I then suddenly am not able to do that anymore, it will be like bad. But also that will come back, right? If I would lose one of my legs, that would be really bad. I would be like, damn, I can't do the sports that I want to do anymore. I can't really do my dancing anymore. And at one point I will normalize it, and that will be my new normal. And that will be baseline, and I will get used to it. And that's happening with all of the things. That's how we adapt. Otherwise, a person who suddenly is blind would never be happy again. But no, you get used to it, and then you work from there. How did I get to this? I'm happy with my life, that was the thing, right? So, point is, right now, I'm in a place where I am good. I'm financially stable, I'm healthy, I don't have to do any things that I really don't want to do, which is my main source of unhappiness. So I can be somewhat stable and I don't have to do this punching out anymore, which maybe I did before. I'm not sure, but I can imagine that I did it. Like when I think back of me in high school, like there are some chat logs that I still have from that time. I was like so different to who I am now. I would never talk like that anymore. Emotionally less mature, a lot less mature in many ways. And I keep learning stuff about myself. And it's so nice to keep learning stuff about myself. Like I have a whole different mental model now, because what I grew up with was like rational intelligence. There was nothing else. Emotional intelligence was not a thing in my family. Like that's something I had to learn. I mean, basically I couldn't, and to that point, still struggle with even just naming my own emotions and what I feel at the moment. It's really difficult for me still. And I notice how I improve, how I'm getting better at this. I want to tell you one example where I recently noticed my own patterns and I was actually really proud of myself. Because a lot of that is just noticing. It's not even like changing anything, although change then happens, but the first step is always noticing. Noticing what you're doing and why you're suddenly behaving in the way that you're behaving is super helpful. So I give you one example. 2 days ago, I came back late and I still wanted to cook because I was hungry, right? So I went in the kitchen and my flatmate was already in her room. I was cooking some vegetable soup because I wanted some vegetables. Okay, so I started cutting my vegetables and I was aware, okay, it's late. It was like midnight or so. I'm gonna cut them quietly, right? So I tried to really cut them quietly. And I had a lot to cut, so like bunch of carrots, bunch of whatever. And I was trying this new cutting technique where I keep the knife on the board at all times. So it's not tuck, 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 but it's like, it was a bit slower and a bit more complicated, but it was more quiet. However, sometimes I still did the tuck, 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 because it just didn't work otherwise. And I tried to be quiet with it. Alright, so when I was almost done with my cutting, I get a text message from my flatmate being like, dude, your cutting is super loud, I hear it through 2 walls. It sounds like you're bashing something with a hammer. That was the text message. And my immediate reaction was like, well, F you, I'm trying to be quiet here and you're telling me that I'm too loud. So apparently whatever I'm doing is not good enough for you anyway. And my immediate response would have been to cut even louder, like to cut normally, as I normally would. From this frustration with the story, I can't make it up to her anyway, so fuck it. I'm just gonna cut the way I wanna cut. Da, 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 da. Like a trotz, how do you say that in English? Very childish behavior, the kind of a reaction. Which was something I noticed in the moment. This is what I want to do right now. And I noticed it and I was like, okay, that's what I want to do right now. That would be my strategy that I would usually go with. And would that help? Would that make anything better? No. Would I, as an adult, really do that? Is that because, I mean, basically my flatmate told me her needs, that she needs some quiet, and I would just make it worse essentially. So I decided against it. I decided against that strategy. And I was like, okay, I'm trying to be quiet. And I was basically done with cutting anyway. And I replied, I really tried to be quiet, with a smiley face like this, the monkey. So yeah, noticing what my patterns are already helps, because otherwise we would probably have gone into a conflict, right? And I would make her feel worse, and then she pushes back to me, and then we start fighting at some point. Which is not what either of us wants. But our strategies that we somehow picked up as children, I imagine, that's a strategy that I learned sometime when I was a child. Some kind of coping. If it doesn't go my way, I just refuse and make it worse on purpose. This is not something I learned as an adult. Oh, that would be a great strategy. She tells me not to do it, so I do more of it. I mean, who does? I mean, that seems stupid, even on a rational level. But the thing is, this all happens on an emotional level. I read that and then my emotions go like, and then my body basically makes me do that. And by noticing, oh, I'm in this state where I feel that, where I am overwhelmed, and I'm like, and I wanna do that, I can then, if I'm in a good state, stop myself from doing it. If I'm myself too overwhelmed, then I'll go with that strategy, because it's the only thing I know. And I'll just be like, oh, fuck it, okay, and so I just texted her, I tried to. Okay, and then maybe half an hour later or so, or an hour, I don't know, after I actually ate my soup, I noticed, okay, I did fall into that pattern. I did stop myself from going with a really bad strategy, but I still didn't fully manage to access the compassion that I usually have towards her, because in that state I was really very defensive still. I was still not fully relaxed. And so I thought about it again, and I came to the conclusion that actually, yeah, I was loud. And yeah, it was late. And yeah, I could have done a better job in cutting silently or not cutting at all. And so I texted her one more thing and I said, I'm sorry that I've been so loud. Something that I used to also struggle with a lot. Apologizing and saying that I'm sorry. I'm not very used to that, because I'm always like, no, I acted the way I acted for a reason, so I never need to apologize. Because I'm always myself and I always do the things that I see as right, and therefore I never need to apologize. Which is also kind of a limited view on the world. I mean, yes, it would work if I'm always 100% in control and in my adult self, and I never get triggered and act out of this feeling of the trigger. So yeah, then I was once again very proud of myself that I did manage to notice that and did manage to apologize. So yeah, lots of self-improvement going on in my life, because I have the capacity to do that now. I have the financial and time capacity to do those things. So yeah, that's my life right now. Seasons are changing. I am changing. And my life is changing. And I'm so happy with the progress I'm making. I feel like I'm becoming a really cool and interesting person. Like, I don't want to put myself above everybody else, although literally I like to do that. Physically here I like to be on and look down on the others, be like, oh look, those people in Vienna, the poor people, they actually need to work on a Tuesday afternoon. And I'll just be like, poor people, I'm so much luckier than them. I don't want to say I'm better than others, because I still have a lot of things to learn, and some other people just learned that from a young age. They had to be emotionally competent as young adults, whereas I could go through my entire life without having any emotional competence because my parents provided for me and I never struggled really. I even think that those videos that I made, like I started daily vlogging, I think that was also just a coping strategy for something. Maybe the lack of people that I could actually talk to. I didn't have people to talk to in my life, so I turned to a camera and uploaded it to YouTube, which I still think is really nice. I love to have those videos, and for my development probably another person would have been more helpful. And maybe that's why I don't vlog that much anymore, because now I do have those people that I can talk to and I can have those conversations with other people. I don't know, it's just a guess. As everything is a guess. My whole mental model, all just guesses. And that also will change. I will not be the same person that I am right now in like 1 or 2 years. I will again change. And I'm very happy with who I am right now. Looking back at how incompetent I was, or not mature, how emotionally immature I was, no wonder that I never had a girlfriend. Or that my relationships didn't work. Because I didn't manage to really connect on an emotional level. And I think I'm slowly learning it. Did I learn everything that I need to know to have a good relationship? Probably not. And there's always stuff to learn. And I think I made good progress. Eventually it's gonna happen that I find somebody where it really clicks. And we both have the competences to work together. Because I, at that point, could also not take anyone anymore who is not self-reflected and who does not see their own issues. I'm aware that I have, like, you can have issues. I have issues. And I have a lot of those strategies. But it's about being able to acknowledge them, even if you don't manage it yourself. If somebody else gives you a hint that, oh, you might be doing that because of that, whatever, that you don't immediately push that away, but that you're willing to learn something about yourself and that you're willing to improve. And I am willing to improve, and I am willing to learn about myself, and I am willing to change my behaviors and change my way of thinking to become a better person and to have a nicer life and to work with other people better. I used to hate compromise. If somebody says a relationship needs compromise, I was like, no, then it's not the right relationship. That was my attitude for a long time. And in a way it still is. Just that I see compromise differently now. Because it's not that I can't compromise. I thought that compromise is I don't get to do the things that I want to do. Freedom. I want to be able to do the things that I want to do. And if somebody limits that, if somebody limits my freedom because I need to compromise, then I don't like that. That was always my attitude. And now I see compromise more like, you have needs, I have needs. How can we find strategies that both of our needs are met? Because if you can't meet your needs in our relationship, or I can't meet my needs in our relationship, then the relationship won't work. And if I have this need for, you know, autonomy and getting to do the things that I want to do, then that can be part of it. So yeah, I couldn't be in a relationship with anyone, but my expectations of them have changed. Before I was more like, oh, I want to have more things in common. I don't know how true that is anymore. I don't think that that's so necessary. Like, they can be very different to me and I would probably still be able to have a really nice relationship with them. Let's have a concrete example here. I thought I could never be with an artist because I don't understand art. Like somebody who draws paintings and stuff. I'd be like, I don't understand this. It doesn't make sense to me. And if she spends all her time with that, then I'm like, well, we don't have anything in common. And if she doesn't like music, but she just likes paintings and I like music, this just doesn't work. Whereas no, I guess I could just learn something from her. Also, with contrary political beliefs, I thought it would be impossible to date someone who has different political opinions than me. Whereas now, I'm like, all those beliefs are just something that you picked up in your life because something that you experienced. And I'm willing to broaden my horizon with your point of view if you're open to listen to my experience, how I see the world. So I think this could work. They don't need to have the exact same beliefs as me. I'm pretty atheist and don't believe in God. Could I be with someone who is like very religious? It would be difficult, and I would probably prefer someone who is as non-religious as I am. And at the same time, it could also be very interesting to really get to know their perspectives on stuff. Because something like religion, you need something. People with religion, I think, are better in finding their meaning in life, which is something I struggle with, because I can't get the meaning from God, because I don't believe in God. This is a stupid concept that I don't think is actually anything that, like, I can't get meaning because God sent me on this world to go on this quest. No, this doesn't make sense to me. I'm too rational. This is not who I am. This is not what I learned. This is not how the world makes sense to me. So I can't defer meaning from that. And I think that for a lot of people, religion is exactly that. It gives them meaning. So it's a good thing, even though I disagree with many things that the church did. And I don't want to support the church, like this institution that basically is a kind of a crowd control, like an authoritarian government. I don't like it. But just because I don't like church doesn't mean that I need to hate religion. And religion is probably something different for every person. So I could be with someone religious. I'm pretty sure that I could be. Whereas me from even 6 months ago, I think I would have struggled to say she can be religious, that's fine. Whereas now I'm like, oh no, she can be religious, that's fine. As long as she accepts my view of not being religious. And important, as long as we have an honest way of communicating and really figuring out each other's needs. So what I'm saying here is, I'm very proud of myself, how much I've changed. I like that I am the person that I am right now. I think that if I was in a relationship now, I have more competence and more tools available to deal with struggles. Tools that I did not have when I was with Kemi. That's why with Kemi I had to break up, because I couldn't make it work. Also, I think that if I would meet a girl like Kemi today, I would probably not even want to date her. Can't be sure, but I don't think so. Because I changed a lot from back then. Back then I thought she was perfect for me, which in a way she was. But right now, not so much anymore. Anyway, so I'm on the right path, even for this bigger goal of finding a partner and eventually starting a family. Don't like how my hair looks, losing so much here already. But change is inevitable. I don't like that sort of change, and I try to be okay with it. I will get there, I think. And if I don't get there, then I don't get there, and that will also be okay. And the less stressful thing is not to become a father at all. Like, there are reasons against it as well, and I can see that. And I don't really know why I want that so strongly anyway. And I also slowly see that if I have children in my life, that could be enough already. For instance, the children of my cousin, I love them. I really like to play with them, and when I was in Carinthia last week, I visited them, and that could be enough. Like, seeing them grow up can be enough for me as well to be like, okay, some children are in my life, they don't need to be my own, it's okay. So yeah, whatever happens, happens, and I'm gonna be cool with it. And I hope that I stay in this good life. In this positive mindset, and this, yeah, I feel good about my life right now. I'm not euphoric, but I'm good. Which is nice. I have no strong, I need to fight this is not going well. Like, I can live like this. And I can make experiences and I can do stuff. And I'm starting to really enjoy Vienna, and I don't intend to move anywhere else, but that's a story for a different